Hello, welcome back to the YarnNYarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting, spinning, crochet and weaving, all of the fibre related things. Today's video is my August making plans video. So I'm going to chat about all of the things that I hope to work on during the coming weeks. If you're new to the channel, this is a fun little game, almost, game that I play at the beginning of each month. I'm someone who enjoys having a lot of works in progress on the needles, and sometimes that can lead to a little bit of procrastination if I don't set myself a few boundaries, a few little goals. So over the last couple of years I have started playing a fun little game where I roll some dice. I've got a set of cards which have some prompts on. Roll the dice. The 4 random prompts help me to choose my projects for the coming months. This month in August, it's my birthday month. Yay! So I'm going to do things a little bit differently because I think I'm going to have a little bit of a mini cast on party. I know, I've got plenty of projects on the go already. I've also got some beautiful yarns in my stash waiting patiently to be cast on, and although I have cast on a few small projects this year, I just feel the urge, so I'm going to go with it. You know, let's scratch that itch, cast on some new things, and yeah, what's 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 more new projects? Yeah. I do know that my way of working doesn't suit everyone, so if you are a monogamous knitter, then honestly sometimes I wish I could be like you, but my brain just doesn't work like that. I like to be surrounded by opportunity choices, so yeah. I'm still going to be rolling the dice, but I'm going to, as well as hopefully pick a couple of projects from my works in progress pile, I'm going to pick a few new things prompted by the dice to cast on. So we'll see how that goes. I have no idea how this will all pan out. I will also, of course, be asking one of our community members to pick a project for me. I'm going to be doing that part of my making plans in a moment. I have on my phone a little wheel of names. Everyone who has in the past said they'd be interested in picking a project for me to work on during the month has gone onto that wheel, and I shall spin the wheel, will generate a name, and that person gets to either pick something from my works in progress pile or choose something entirely new for me to cast on. The world is that person's oyster. I'm quite willing to purchase patterns and yarns if needs be. This is a more recent fun element that we've added to the Making Plans game. Before I get into all of that, I also would like to mention that I think through August and September we'll have a fun little make along. So I hope that you might be interested in joining me for a hat along. So quite recently I posted a video chatting about some yarns in my stash that I hope to use within the next 12 months or so. The video is called These Yarns Will Self-Destruct in 12 Months, something along those lines. I'll link it somewhere. And I have one particular skein of yarn in that basket that I was thinking about casting on for a Musselburgh hat, because I haven't knit one of those. Lots of people seem to really love that pattern, and when I mentioned that I might cast on with that yarn, the resounding vote was yes, you must knit a Musselburgh with that yarn. This is the skein of yarn in question. It's from Undercover Otter. It's their Squirm base, which is 80% merino, 20% nylon, superwash based, high twist yarn, 400 meters for 100 grams, and this colorway is called If It Bleeds. So I'm going to be casting on a Musselburgh with that, and a few other people said that they haven't knit a Musselburgh and wouldn't it be fun to have a knit along. So I think through August and September we'll have a bit of a hat along. So you don't have to knit the Musselburgh, because I know that pattern might not be for everyone. You might have other hat patterns in your stash, you might have favourites, you might be already thinking about gift knitting, and perhaps you've got a few hats to make on your list. So yeah, hat along for August and September. So I will definitely be casting that on. We'll have a hashtag over on Instagram. We'll do YNY hat mal. Any craft counts. You can knit, you can crochet. If you want to sew or weave or spin for a hat, yeah, you could do anything. But the hat does have to be made. So if you're going to spin, you have to spin and knit in the 2 months. But I think 2 months is easily doable for most people for making a hat. So yeah, I'll pop a thread up on our Ravelry group and we'll have the hashtag going on Instagram, and at the end of September or the beginning of October we'll pick a couple of winners. I'll come up with some prizes. Let's make hats in August and September. At least I hope some of you will be interested in joining me for that, and I won't just be hatting along by myself. Anyway, I need to do the random picking for the month because I need to leave the house in just a little bit. So let's get this wheel a-rolling. Okay, so it will be Kate who will be picking my project for August. So I'm going to get in touch with Kate, see what they would like me to cast on or work on, and then in a few days' time for me, but in just a second for you, I shall come back. We'll chat about what Kate has chosen, and then also we shall roll the dice for the rest of the project picks for August. See you in a moment. Okay friends, so a couple of days have passed for me and I have been having a lovely chat with Kate about what project she might like for me to make during the month of August. We've gone back and forwards and had a few messages, and Kate decided to pick a new cast on for me. I hadn't mentioned to her that I was hoping to have a little bit of a cast on party, so it's just entirely coincidental. I didn't lead her down that path at all. But Kate had a little rummage around my Ravelry queue and in my favourites, and actually came back to me with 4 different project options. I think there was a pair of socks, a shawl, a sweater and a blanket, so lots of different options. And I said to Kate, just go with whatever you really fancy. And she picked an amazing project for me. It's definitely going to be a longer term project, which is absolutely fine. But Kate has picked the Scout Shawl for me, which is a pattern by Florence? I can't remember off the top of my head, which is crazy because I've only just been looking at it. I'll put it up on the screen now. It's a fabulous shawl. This shawl is a colourwork and intarsia affair, and it's just beautiful. I'll pop a picture up if I remember to. So I'm going to be raiding my stash to find some yarns for that. I've got a little stash of Jamieson's Spindrift yarn, which is perfect for colourwork, so I think I might dip into that to start picking out my colour palette. I think it's very likely that I might need to add a ball or two or pick a new shade. I've got a fairly limited little stash of Jamieson's of the Spindrift yarn, but I will use what I've got as my sort of starting point and build out from there. Kate did also very kindly gift me the pattern, so thank you so much, Kate. There was no obligation to do that. We did have a chat about it, but Kate said that she really wanted to gift me the pattern, so I shall be casting on at some point during the month the Scout Shawl, which yeah, I'm super thrilled about. So 1 project picked, well technically 2 if we include the Musselburgh, but let's roll the dice to see what the dice have in store for the other project picks for August. So the dice have spoken. I've got 4 fun picks to make, and what I think I'm going to do is, I think for each of these prompts I'm going to pick something from my works in progress list and then also line up a possible new cast on. And then when the time comes for me to work on that pick, usually I pick 1 project per week in the month to work on. So as each week ticks by, I will probably decide at the time whether I'm in the mood to cast on or whether I'm in the mood to work on something from my whips list. Maybe I'll do both, I don't know. I'm just kind of leaving things fairly open for myself during the month of August because, you know, it's my birthday and I want to just have some fun. I mean, I always have fun with my knitting, but you know what I mean. Get into the prompts that we've got in no particular order. 12 cast on, because that's quite an interesting one. I will definitely be able to pick a 12 cast on from my works in progress, and what I thought I would actually kind of cheat slightly, because after our last 12 cast ons, if you're new to the channel, sorry, I have a make along at the end of each year going into the beginning of the subsequent year where I spend usually 12 consecutive days casting on 12 new projects, which is one of the reasons I end up with so many projects on the needles. But the idea is to put some projects on the needles that I've been excited for, use some yarn that I've got, use some patterns that I've got, and sort of cast those on and set myself up for my year's worth of making. And when I did my 12 cast-ons this year, I think in my little wrap-up video after I'd finished casting on, I did sort of do a little bit of a chat about some of the projects that I had on my radar that didn't quite make it onto the needles. And if my memory serves me correctly, I haven't actually rewatched that video back, but I'm fairly sure that the Musselburgh hat was on there. For my new cast on element for that prompt, I think I'm going to cheat slightly and use the Musselburgh hat for that, just so I don't end up with too many options, because the whole idea of doing this dice game to start with is to narrow my options. And I think if I bamboozle myself with, you know, 8, 9, 10 possible projects, then I could end up going down that sort of procrastination loophole, which I'm trying to avoid. So yeah, for the 12 cast-ons, I'm going to use the Musselburgh, and that will definitely be going on the needles. I think for my work in progress for this particular prompt, I'm going to choose my Ripple Camisole, I think that's what it's called, which is a pattern by Jessie May Design, and I will just grab that whip from my pile of project bags behind me. I worked on this project, it is the Ripple Camisole, earlier on in the year, back in February, and I made quite a lot of progress. It has been to this point a fairly straightforward knit. It's basically a tube of ribbing. And I got to the point, it looks really narrow, doesn't it? It's meant to be designed with a very sort of large amount of negative ease. It's a sort of close to body garment. You can wear this as an outer garment, but my thought is to have this as something to wear as an extra layer in the winter, or as a warmer layer when I get out of the sea if I'm doing my cold water dips. Yeah, back in February I got to the point where I was ready to actually do the shaping, so I've knit what is essentially the body, and now I need to do the shaping at the top, which kind of makes the sort of cups on the camisole, the straps, and of course knit up for the back as well. So I might be going to knit back and forward now, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I am fairly close-ish to finishing this project, so it'd be quite nice to get another one of my 12 cast-ons off the needles if I can. So for that prompt, I will definitely be casting on the Musselburgh hat, and I think it's very likely that I will also be working on this, so I might be working on 2 projects for that prompt. I'm knitting mine from some lovely yarn from Attic Spin Dye. This was one of their club colourways. Last year they did some British birds inspired yarn, and I believe this was the Wren colourway, and I accidentally ordered 2 skeins, but Andy was very good and let me know that I'd ordered 2 skeins, and did I mean to do that? I decided to go ahead with my purchase of the 2 skeins, and I'm really happy that I did so, because it's enabling me to knit a slightly larger project. I know a lot of the smaller sizes in these sort of Ripple camisole and the Ripple bralette can be knit with just 1 skein, but for my size it's recommending just over 1 skein. So far I've got quite a lot of yarn left, but I've probably still got a fair amount of knitting left too. For the next prompt I have colour work, and I think I'm going to do the same and make things a little bit more restrictive for myself by doubling up. I will use the Scout Shawl as my new cast on option for this. I've got quite a few colour work projects on the go. I don't think I really want to cast on 2 new colour work projects in 1 month, so my new cast on option is a Scout, and that's definitely going to go on the needles because that was our community pick. And then from my list of works in progress, I think I'm going to plump for my Selbu socks. Now these are a 12 cast on project from a couple of years ago, so they've been on the needles for far too long. I picked these up a couple of months ago, started working on them and realised that I messed up the directions on the pattern. I completely misread the pattern directions, and I ended up zooming up the foot. This is what I've got done so far, and I had left it too late to start my gusset increases for the sock, and I ended up having to rip back. I would really like to get at least the first sock done so I know what I'm doing. And it's a lovely colour work chart. I just haven't had the best of luck with the pattern, but it's all down to user error, nothing to do with the pattern itself. So yeah, I think I'd quite like to return to this project if I have time. As I say, my main project for that prompt is going to be the Scout Shawl. The third prompt for the dice this month was sweater. And I think for my work in progress, I will pick the option of carrying on with my Carlina sweater. If you have followed for the last few months, you know I had a little bit of a splurge on my sweater making back in June, but sadly not everything went to plan. But the one project that did seem to be going to plan so far, touch wood and all that, was my Carlina sweater, and I've literally just got round and round stockinette to go to finish the body. It's a top down sweater. I've done the colour work portion at the top. I've got a limited amount of yarn yet left, so I just need to knit round and round and round. I think that will satisfy my urge to have a simple knit on the go. So far I've got potentially a couple of harder projects I need a bit more concentration, and a couple of easier ones, but it's nice to have something to work on in the evenings in front of the TV, or if I take a trip to the cinema, just round and round, something I can do without thinking. So I think Carlina is going to be my option for that. In terms of options for new cast-ons, I've got quite a few sweaters in my queue, and I think I've got yarn for at least 3 of those options. So I don't think I'm going to make a set in concrete decision what my new cast-on might be, but just to give you an idea, some of the options I have in mind is I'd finally quite like to get a ranunculus on the needles. One of the only knitters in the world that hasn't knit a ranunculus, so I'd quite like to cast one of those on. I have yarn for a Heritage Harbour, which is a pattern by Samantha Gearin, and that would use a couple of balls of yarn that I've purchased this year. I also have, what else have I got in mind? I have got a potential pattern in mind for a couple of the skeins from my self-destructing yarn basket that I might combine and add to knit a sweater. I've got the Recalibrate pattern. I've got a colour work pattern that was gifted to me called the Tulipa, I think it's called, which is a lovely sort of flowery yoke pattern, which I might use one of the skeins for. So yeah, I've got a few different options that I might dip into. So I think I will just see how the month is going, and if I do a new sweater cast on, that might be my cast it on my birthday, on the actual day. That might be my little splurge. So yeah, we'll see what I feel like and what I feel like on the day. But I've got quite a few options if I do decide to cast on a new sweater. I mean, I've got loads of sweaters on the needles, so it's not like I need another one on the needles, but you know, the heart wants what the heart wants, right? And the final prompt that came up is random number generator. So I am going to use a random number generator to pick my project for my works in progress. So let me just figure out how many works in progress I've got on the needles. At the moment, I'm filming this a few days before the end of the month, and there's potential that I'm going to finish a couple of the projects that are in my works in progress list. So I'm going to count it as if I do finish those. And that means I will have 20 projects on the needles. So random number generator, minimum 1, maximum 20. So 1 I will count as my oldest work in progress, and 20 I will count as one of the newer works in progress. So we'll see what happens. So number 18, that will be one of my newer works in progress. So let me pop back to Ravelry. Actually, number 18 is my gingerbread socks, another pair of socks. So let me grab those. My gingerbread socks are one of my 12 cast-ons from this year, and actually pulling this out of the bag, I've left it at the point where I just need to kitch another toe on the first sock and cast on for the second. So I often do silly things like this, whereby I will try and give myself enough time. If I'm at the end of a sock, I want to give myself enough time to finish this sock and cast on immediately for the next sock, so that it's on the needles and I don't have that sort of second sock syndrome thing. But this would actually be another really good project. This is much more portable than the Carlina round and round knitting. Great one to take to the cinema. So yeah, I'm not mad that this one has popped out of the random number generator. This was the project I cast on day 11 of our 12 cast-ons. This particular yarn is the West Yorkshire Spinners holiday colourway from last year, and I've just seen some secret details about this year's seasonal colourway from West Yorkshire Spinners that will be coming at the end of August. Yeah, actually at the end of the month. So yeah, seems quite fitting that I might be able to make some progress on my socks from last year's seasonal colourway. So that's my option for random number generator. For my new cast on option, I've been doing recently is my little randomizer wheel that I have for my project to pick, like the community picked project. I've made myself a whole bunch of other wheels. I've plugged in some patterns that I have on Ravelry that I haven't yet knit, and I've also started going through some of my pattern books because I often neglect those. So I've got different wheels with some sweaters, some socks, some shawls, some hats that I've picked out of my pattern project books, things that as I was flicking through sort of caught my attention, and I thought that maybe I would like to knit one of those one day. So I think, given that the last couple of projects I've cast on have been patterns that I've got from Ravelry, I think it's only fair that I give my book selection a go. So I've got one spinner wheel where I've put like all of the pattern categories in. So I think we'll do a spin of that to see what kind of pattern I might cast on if the mood so takes me. This could be interesting if it's another sweater, couldn't it? Did I jinx that? Did I bring it forth? I am not saying that I am definitely casting these projects on. I'm just giving myself some options here. So let's go to the sweater wheel. So these are all sweaters that I have picked out of my pattern books, as I mentioned. Some of these I've got yarn for, some of them I won't have yarn for, so that could also be a deciding factor. I'm trying not to bring in too much yarn at the moment, but I'm not opposed to buying some new things, especially, you know, birthday treat and all that. So we shall see what the spinner picks for me and whether I'm currently in the mood to cast that on, because, you know, from day to day I could flick through my pattern books and one thing might attract my fancy on one day and the next day I might think, oh no, actually I'm not in the mood for that. So it'll be quite interesting to see how consistent my sort of taste is and my feeling towards these projects. So let's spin the wheel and see what happens. Okay, this is the Roosty sweater from Shetland Wool Week 7, and I literally have no recollection of what that sweater is. So let me go and grab the book and we can find out together. Okay, so this is an interesting one. It's actually a tank top, a vest, rather than a sweater. It's a design by Ella Gordon, I think. Did I see that right? Yes, Ella Gordon. Here is one of the photos in the magazine. Isn't that lovely? I definitely still would like to knit this, but it also would involve me buying a fair amount of yarn. I don't think I would have enough in my stash, even if I swapped around colours. And actually I really like the colour palette that the original pattern is knit in. Surprise, surprise, it's blue and orange. I mean, that's not going to surprise anyone, but I love that colour combo. So I think I would actually be tempted to not swap the colours around and go with what is suggested in the pattern. So I think that will come down to whether I'm in the mood to treat myself to some yarn. Interesting. So yeah, that could be on the cards as well. See what happens as the month progresses. So that is everything, I think, for today. I've got loads of options, some potential new cast-ons. I've picked out some potential works in progress. I will probably do a mishmash of all of those things. I have, of course, the fabulous Scout Shawl to cast on. I'm going to go stash diving in a minute and try and pick out a colour combination for that. I have my Musselburgh hat will definitely be going on the needles, so that's at least 2 new projects that will go on the needles, and then we'll see what else the month brings. So please do let me know in the comments below what your plans are for the coming months. If you are going to be joining in with our hat along, don't forget that will go from the 1st of August till the end of September. Let me know what pattern you're going to pick. Are you going to jump in with me and knit a Musselburgh? Are you going to pick an entirely different pattern? Are you playing along with the dice game? I know that there are a few people out there who use the prompts that I pick to help them pick their projects. So if you're playing along with the dice prompts, then let me know what you're going to be working on as a result of those prompts. Let's just chat all of the knitting, weaving, crochet and spinning plans in the comments below. Yeah, just let me know. I love to be inspired by what you're working on, what you're thinking about starting. Thank you so very much for joining me today. I will of course be back again here soon with some more making content, so I hope you will join me for the next video. Until we do get to spend time together again, I hope that you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now. Bye.